The Lebanon Moravian Church is celebrating 175 years under the theme, Still Following the Lamb. Brother Mitchell, as one of our activities, we have decided to interview a few persons from our congregation, and you have been chosen. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
No problem.
Please state your name, date, family background.
Okay, I am Campbell Mitchell Coates, and I was born right here in Seaview Farm on the 5th day of December 1963. My parents, Campbell Austin Coates and Geraldine Coates, and their parents, my father's parents, was Boniface Coates and Healy Seven, and my mother's parents were Axel Roberts and Vera Roberts. And all these persons were persons who are from Seaview Farm. So I could say that at least the last 3 generations were Seaview Farm people. What else?
Okay. Tell us about your siblings.
I have had two brothers. One died. So Neil, I'm the first, I must say. I'm the first of my parents, and Neil the second, Neil Coates, and he's still very much with us. And the third was Greg Coates, and he died sometime, I think, 1996. He was the youngest of the 3. So it was 3 of us, all boys, so I didn't grow up with a sister. So I had to learn to do all the cooking and washing and these other things so that I could survive on my own.
That's very good. Tell us about your church life. Can you remember the minister that confirmed you and when you were confirmed?
Yes, although I'm not too good with the memories, past memories, probably I don't have enough time to think on them. Could be one of the reasons for that. I can say that, well, I was confirmed by Reverend Lloyd Kitson,
Right.
Reverend Lloyd Kitson, in November of 1977.
Wow.
I can remember that specifically. I think that was just shortly after we had moved back to the church after repairs that were being done to the church following, I think it was the earthquake.
1974.
We used to worship in the school for quite a few years, because I remember Julie, my aunt, she was, I think, their confirmation was the last in the school, or the second to last. So I think we would have done ours probably the second, or the first or the second, after we came back to worship in the church.
Okay.
I sort of remember that. I also was baptized here. Reverend Brown.
Wow.
Reverend Brown was the minister at the time when I was baptized. Can't remember the exact date, but I think it might have been the 27th of December or January that I would have had the baptism. So I think that's about it in terms of confirmation and the baptism part of it. I remember a few persons that I was in confirmation class with. I don't know if I can list some of them.
Yes, that's fine, that's fine.
All right, I remember Heather, my cousin. I remember Madeline, Joseph, well, Louis now. I remember Angie, Joseph. I remember Debbie Andrew, I think. Or he might have been the year after. I remember Auntie Roberts.
Okay, that's very good.
And who else? I remember the Francises. Don Francis and so on, because I remember
those
when
Kennedys, right,
when we had our confirmation and we went down, go down by them too after the confirmation. I remember some of that. So these are some of the persons that I can remember that when we had our confirmation.
See, most people don't even know that these Kennedy boys grew up in Lebanon Church. That's very good. Tell me about Boys Brigade. When you say Boys Brigade, you say Mitchel. Tell me at what age did you come associated with the Boys Brigade?
Okay. Boys Brigade basically started here at Lebanon, well, the second time around, because most persons would remember that we had Boys Brigade here before. It was, I think the name was also the Life Boys, they had a Life Boys group here. But when Boys Brigade started in Antigua, second time around, 1972, CV Farm, Lebanon, was the second company to get started after Freetown.
Amen.
And we actually got started here in 1973. And I can remember that date for one reason, that our captain at the time, Stedroy Brown, he was our captain and the first captain for the second Antigua company. That's what our number that we were given for that second time around. I think just a matter of information, the first time the company was 9th Antigua Boys Brigade, when they had the Boys Brigade in the 50s and 60s here. Okay. So Stedroy Brown was the captain, and I remember when we were signing up in front of the church, he indicated to me that he knew my age. So I didn't have to give my age at the time, because he said he knew my age. But after I got my enrollment card, I noticed that he had 12 years on my card. So I had to go back to him for him to change it, because I actually was 9 years of age at the time. So because of that, I tend to remember the age at which I started in Boys Brigade, simply for that mistake that was made. So I started Boys Brigade at 9 years of age, and from my recollection, I think I was the youngest person that started from the first day of signing up. I was the youngest member of the brigade at that time. So quite a bit of persons actually started in the brigade. I remember the numbers was upward of 50 to 75 boys at one time and so on. So there was quite a bit of persons in the brigade at the time. So Captain Brown, he was the captain for a period of 9 years or so. So he was there from 73 until about 82. And sometime I remember we had an enrollment at a service, and he then named me as the acting captain of the brigade. I can't say I was prepared for it, but like anything else, you had to learn, and the learning curve was steep. And from 1982, I've been the captain of the brigade until current. Wow. So that's talking about 30 years at least that I've been in the brigade. We had a period of time between 1989 and 1992 when we were dormant and nothing was happening. That was the time when I had gone on some studies and so on, and the Boys Brigade went down. I remember there were a few persons that were in as NCOs, or the non-commissioned officers, like Ruan Go. I remember specifically, he was one of the senior guys that I had left to take care of things as while I was studying, but I guess things didn't work out, so it sort of dwindled until we got started again in 1992, while Reverend Christopher was here. Okay. And so in 1992 we got started, and we enrolled I don't remember the exact date. I think we were enrolled in 1993, May of 1993, and we got started in November 1992. And we enrolled with 30 boys, I think, or 35. Don't remember the exact figure now. And from since then, we have been going until now. So my life in the brigade, I should say, was a significantly long one.
Long one, very long one.
Yeah.
That's your total life from a childhood and even until now. How does the Boys Brigade and your church life, your upbringing in the church, impact your private life and your everyday life? How do you see the church impact your life?
Okay. Well, first of all, in terms of church and community life, I tend to view the church not as just a home where you come for spiritual teachings, learnings, or whatever. I really view the church as being a holistic preparation for life. Where if you're part of the church, it should be helping in molding you as a person, not only from a spiritual standpoint, but how you interact with persons in the society. So, just from that aspect of it, what I would like to say is that I really see the church and all the groups that have been involved in the church as playing a role in who I am now, in my opinion. And so it's very important to me that the church would be the one that create that impact in your life. And so I have been in the Boys Brigade mainly. I've been on the choirs from a very young age also. I can remember that I was on the junior choir and the senior choir at the same time, helping out. I think because of the fact that the senior choir didn't have any basses at the time. My recollection of that is that I didn't really like it too much because no other young person was there on the choir, and so as a result I would probably try to sneak away from it sometimes. But you know, I recognized I was helping them out, and so I did it when I can. And added to that, I love the singing, so I didn't mind doing it. But I think one of the major factors is that sometimes we love as persons to know that we have other people our age or our friends doing the same things that we're doing. So it did have an impact, but at least I was able to get accustomed to it, and then now have fallen right into it, and I'm still there with the choir. So basically, in terms of church, my thing is that the church really is the one, along with the groups in the church, that would have really played a part in molding my life outside of your school life and your home life. You know, and later on you would have a work life coming into play. But to me, the church really would have made me who I am at, and where I'm at now.
Well, Campbell Mitchel Cole seems to be one disciplined and rounded young man. You're now married, you have a family, you have a hectic work life. You still spend long hours with those boys in the Boys Brigade. Tell us how you manage to cope all these activities together.
I must say that I live a boring life, in my opinion, because persons who say boring, well, no, persons who say exciting, I would think boring, because I tend to always plan out my life. Sometimes my wife and persons close to me sort of have a bit of problem with that sometimes, because they think I'm too straitjacket or too fixed in how I do things, or I don't change mine easy. When I decide about something, I stick with it, that sort of thing. I don't know where that attitude came from, probably my mother, but I don't know. But I must say, I'm a sort of stable, very stable person, simply because I make decisions purposefully in terms of deciding what I'm going to do based on all the available information. So when I make a decision, I don't look back and regret things. And because of the things that I would do in terms of how I plan my life, I really don't have much highs and lows neither. I don't get overexcited about things. maybe I'll feel good in my inside, I'll feel good about something, but outwardly I don't express too much big excitement, simply because that's just me plan how I plan and do my stuff, and plus I don't get much lows neither, so generally I don't really feel depressed and so often. I just live a life, and I don't know how I can say much about it, but in terms of how I want things to go, I really, probably the biggest experience I would have had in that is that from early life I always tell myself that you should spend as much of your waking time being productive, doing something that adds to your life and beneficial to your life. So, you know, I would always try not to have too much of downtime, wasting time, as you put it. I don't want too much of wasting time in my life, and maybe that's why sometimes I don't sleep much in the day, because I believe I'm missing something and I'm getting a chance to do something. So I don't sleep much in the daytime, and I don't sleep early in the night, because I always have to be doing something that I think is adding value. Right? So I think that is one of the things that I can say that I really try to see if I can inculcate that in the boys in the brigade. So my passion for brigade is not really because I love boys. To be honest with you, persons might think that at the first sight. I don't really necessarily have a special love for boys or children per se. I'm sort of a quiet person. Personally, I think my personality is that I'm a quiet person and would sit quietly and feel quite happy doing it. Right? Some people might think you're depressed, but I'm very well not depressed about it, but I'm a quiet person. But my passion is to see the young men do well, and do well in their school life and in their personal life and everything. And so what I want to see is that when they come working people, grown people, that they at least can be productive people in the community. And that is where my passion is. It bothers me to see guys just waste their life and do nothing and not trying to accomplish nothing. And so really and truly, that is where my passion is. And to me, the success from the Boys Brigade, I believe, would come from the fact that how I plan things and how I do things. At one time, and it's very difficult to run a voluntary youth organization. Persons who have been in it would know. Persons who are not in it and persons who are not leaders and have never led anything would not understand. They'll criticize a lot of things, but I come to understand that life is made up of all kind of different people. So when a person criticizes something, I look in the good side of it, I look for any good aspect of it to take from, and then I move on and just do what I have to do, generally. So I don't, how should I say, decry or downplay person's contribution, whether it's a criticism or not. I take what they have to say and generally I'm building it. And I have, and that's how I operate generally from a leadership standpoint. Unbelievably, but anywhere I go in the world,
that's how you function.
That's how I function, and I find myself always being the leader in everything. I went to Canada, I go to school, I do anything, I've been picked to be leader. Not that I really wanted to be, but I always find myself being the one selected to be leadership. I don't know if maybe it's just how I look in the face.
Okay, you look like a leader.
I've been involved in all sorts of things and automatically I'm being picked. So that maybe could be one of the reasons. And so I really don't know. I really don't know what the reason for it is. But that's how I try to live my life generally. You know?
Okay. Mitchel, I'm senior you. I've known Mitchel all my years. I remember Mitchel as a boy running over the church behind your grandfather. I remember you have any picture of home with your hair plaited? I remember when your hair used to be plaited. And I would really want to ask you, as a boy growing up, outside of your church life, what type of child you were? Give us a real some humorous, hilarious story about Mitchell as a boy growing up, your outdoor lives, what it is, maybe you get some spanking from mom, dad, or grandmother, that would have made Mitchell outside of Mitchell church life.
I was a boring person for a long time. I think I viewed myself as when I can some people say that persons grow up from and be they're a child and they behave like a child and so on, growing up in life, and at some point in time they make that transition to youth and so forth. I think I was mentally matured as to how I want to do things in life before I was 10 years of age.
Wow.
I really was serious about life in terms of not enjoying life, because I enjoy life fully. I've been involved in cricket, captain CFAM cricket team, played football for CFAM. I've done in school table tennis. Yeah. Ah. So I was playing table tennis for Antigua. So from an athletic sporting standpoint, I've done it all also. But I think I was mentally a matured person at a very early age.
Never get any licks?
I would remember getting licks, but the licks I remember was mainly when we go to the pasture and don't come back. Because these days, young people don't leave the village. But in our time, as soon as school was finished, on weekends, we'll be in the pasture looking for some sort of fruit or just liming in the pasture. Playing, doing all sort of things. Even when we come up for confirmation class, we come up early because we want to go down David Got and Salpan and those areas to go look grapes and guava and things like that.
That's it with those days.
So most of the licks I remember getting in my life was really when we go East Dam, go pan and fishing and so on, and come back in terms of young life. There are a lot of experiences that persons would have learned from and been involved with. One of the things that I would like to share is the fact that, I consider myself to be a bit of a lazy person. Probably it wasn't true in reality because I was very active, but in terms of like any other young person, you're home and your parents ask you to do something and you're always tired, or you just finished playing cricket or football and you're a bit like, tired to do anything and, don't want to do. And I had one experience that always stuck in my mind about an incident similar to that, where my mother was calling me and asking me to I think go by my grandmother, that is Vera, go by Mama and pick up something. And I had just come from playing cricket or one of the sports, and I was saying I'm tired and I can't do that now and I'll do that later. Just like a typical young person who just feel that they don't want to get up and do. And she didn't bother with me. I didn't do it at the time. I said I'll do it later. And it was no less than 5 minutes after, maybe 5-10 minutes, but no more than that, that one of my friends called me. And those days my friends were like Trevor and Dave and Jesse and this other person. I don't remember who called me exactly, but they called me and saying, let's go town, or let's go follow them, go somewhere. And I get up and tell them, yes, I'm following them. And after finish answers are coming, I sat back and realized what happened. And I said, I couldn't do it for my parents, who supposed to take care of me and feed me and love me. And I couldn't do it for them. I said, I'm too tired. But as soon as a friend called, I wasn't tired anymore. And I called back the friend and tell him, look, I just tell my mother I'm not going to do something because I'm tired. So I can't tell you what me just tell you the while, so I'm not come. And I think from that day, I learned a lesson about life and who are the people you really should be loving and what's your priority in life.
Right.
And that made a significant impact on my life in terms of recognizing that sort of thing. And from since then, it never happened again to me. It has never happened again to me because that stood out in my life very significantly. And so we always have to realize and recognize who are the people that love you and who are the persons that you should be put in paramount in your life in terms of doing things and appreciation for people for what they're doing for you. So that's an experience I think that I would like most young people to understand and recognize, because I'm sure it would have happened in their life, because all of us would have gone through the experience. We only have time for friends and run around, but as soon as our parents want something to do, we never in a position, and we never think that is the right time. We can do it a bit later. So that is something that stood out in my life in terms of changing how I view things and do things. And it has stayed with me up to this day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Out of 175 years of celebration, Mitchel, it's unbelievable that you almost have 50 years out of this 175 years. Can you sum it up in a short sentence, a message that you would have to give anyone who is not part of a religious or church organization, that you would have to say to them at this time? And also, from your interview, it seems as though you did not have a problem with peer pressure. In as much as it comes your way, you were able to conquer that with your positive outlook on life. What would you have to say to young people in these days that seems to be pressured by their peers?
I can't sum it up in one line or short line. Definitely can't. Peer pressure, I recognize that it exists, but as you rightly said, I wasn't affected by peer pressure. Definitely not affected by peer pressure. And I always remember the incident where a lot of young guys were smoking marijuana in Seaver Farm. Seaver Farm was actually like a capital for marijuana at one time in my teenage years. And we were playing basketball down on what we call the dirt court. That was West School next to Antalis, just by the school before it is now the current school, but it was the wooden school from the base that they had. And so when I say the base, I mean the Navy base had donated to the government. That was one of the schools. And I remember a set of young guys smoking a marijuana spliff and passing it around and asking me if I want. And I told them no. And really and truly, I didn't have a problem. I didn't have to think about whether I wanted to do it or not. I just said no. And when I say no, sometimes persons know that ask again. And I think that is where some people have the problem with it. When they say no to people about things, the way how they say no, people always can come back and still try. When you say no, no mean no, and people must see what I mean by no. And so I really was not affected by peer pressure. And as I say, I always felt I was a mature person even before 10 years of age. So, and I only do what I want to do. And I say so in Boys Brigade. Even if a person wants to be a thief, even if one in brigade want to be a thief, make it be a decision that he wanted it, not by a peer pressure of somebody encouraging him to it. Right? That is very important to me, that a person is their own person, doing what they think is the best thing to do. The thieving, stealing, sorry, is not it's a local language. Stealing is not something that will be desirable, but it's important that a person understand that you do the thing that you want to do. So it's important for a person to understand that peer pressure is something that you choose to take on if you want to take on peer pressure. But in terms of the church, from beginning I said I see church as a society, a social hierarchy where within a community is built on certain things. I was in, and that just reminded me of an incident. I was working in Panama a couple of years ago. I used to go there every year. And we went into a community, an area that is built up. And the guy who I was with, who actually is from Costa Rica but who lived and worked in Panama, made a comment in Spanish, and I'm not really good at Spanish, so I can't remember the exact comment, but he translated to mean that this is just a sprawling area of houses, but it was not considered a community. So they give it a word in Spanish. That meaning is not a community, meaning that persons don't know peer persons, there's no connection. And what he was trying to say is that there are certain factors that makes a group of people a community, a group of homes a community. They have to have a common thread or social link somewhere. Either it's going to be either school, it's church, or some social group, or something that creates a community spirit or a link between persons. But if everybody live in a house within a certain locale and nobody know each other, nobody communicate with each other, you can't really be a community. You're just a set of houses. So I see church and view church as a community of people, and that is how I grew up in the church. And it sort of bothers me when I see persons just get up and walk out of church and say they're gone or the church is. It really bothers me because I know it's something I won't do just like that, because in my mind I already know what I'm up to, and it kind of bothers me that persons figure that they have to get up and go away in order to deal with issues. If you have an issue, you're in a church, in a community, every community have issues. Everywhere you go, you have issues. You have issues at work, you have issues anywhere you go. And because we're all individuals, you're going to have situations where people have to communicate in order to solve those issues. So I saw church as just not spiritual, but a community of people from Cereal Farm, and it sort of made me really feel and think twice when people get up and walk away from that community, suggesting that there are serious problems, perceived problems that persons maybe have and were not able to address within that community. So I just want to say that 175 years is a long time. I'm almost 50 years of age, and I think I've been around, and personally I think that if the church that I've been in Lebanon here have done and created the impact that it had on me, I'm satisfied, and I'll say that again, I'm satisfied that the church really did something good for our community, and it's something that I would want to say that our problem is that we need to just communicate more. Communication is a serious part of the problems that persons might encounter, and I think that we have had our ups and downs. I've seen the ups and downs, I've seen issues, but you don't just get up and walk away, because you meet it anywhere else you go, unless you want to live in isolation. And I think the church have done its best in trying to cater for the needs of people. And so I think for 175 years we've done quite well. And I want to wish us another 175 years. And that we'll be around as long as we can think of. Alright, so that's basically my one sentence.
Mitchel, thank you very much for accepting. I really enjoyed the interview, and I can only pray long life, success in all your endeavor, and that whatever impact Lebanon would have had in your life, that you will continue to make certain that you make it be known and impart it to persons that you come in contact with. Thank you very